I have got an absolutely plum fantastic list of fragrances for you today. That's right, all of these fragrances contain the note of plum. This is one of those notes that's starting to get, I guess you could say, hype. It's just people are discovering what an absolutely delicious, delectable, wonderful note this is. Many times it's mixed with some liqueur, some tobacco, some spice. And this list is a good compilation of the fragrances that I own that feature the note of plum. And what I'm going to do is begin with the ones that feature plum less prominently, working up to the ones that are just plum dominant. So that's where we're headed. Please excuse my voice. I was kind of sick last week and recovering from a cold. So Happy New Year, by the way. Let's go ahead and get into this list. Remember to give an absolutely plum fabulous click to the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. Let's begin. All right, so this first one is one I actually ended up giving to my daughter. I just never really wore it. It is definitely unisex, leaning feminine. And it's this one right here, Badi Al Oud Sublime. And you know, it's a apple, lychee, rose, plum, fruity fragrances. It kind of smells like an overload of fruit punch with a little bit of waxy rose. And the sweet fruitiness, you know, apple and plum, they don't smell alike, but they give the same effect of that sort of sweet fruitiness. Plum can come across as kind of syrupy sweet, but this one mixing with a little bit of that tropical vibe, you know, it smells great. Smells like fruit punch with a little bit of rose, but ended up being too feminine for me. And there is, I would say, discernible fruitiness that you could say, yeah, that's plum. That's plum that I'm smelling. So anyway, Badi Al Oud Sublime. It's one of the fragrances Fragrantica lists as a plum fragrance. All right, this next one. This is a brand new release, and this one does feature the note of plum as plum liqueur. I would say in this one, though, it's most prominent in the opening, the first 20 minutes or so. I'm talking about this one right here, Terak Intense. This is really a strong fragrance, a long-lasting fragrance. It is expertly done. It's by Quinton Beish, who mostly does high-end fragrances, and here you can get this one for probably 40 bucks or something like that. It is a spicy saffron, cinnamon, sweet benzoin tonka bean fragrance with some plum liqueur in the top. This one is not too far off from something like Lattafa Camera or even some Angel Share dupes, but you are going to get a little bit of that fruity plum liqueur in the opening, and it's real. It's there. It's noticeable. You can pick it out as, yeah, that's exactly what that is. Smells really good. I would say this one is also unisex, maybe leaning a hair feminine. I can't quite put my finger on why, but it smells great. I'm wearing it. It lasts forever. It'll stay on your clothes for a week easily. This stuff is powerful. Terak Intense by Lattafa. All right, now we're moving into some fragrances that are a little more plum forward. They're kind of known for plum, and one of them right here, I think this is the only designer in the list. This one is 1 Million Lucky. Grapefruit and plum in the opening. This sort of sweet and citrus fruitiness that you're going to get. And the thing that I'll say about this one is in the original here, there's also this nuttiness coming from, I believe it's hazelnut, as well as a powerful ozonic note. And the ozonic feel of this fragrance makes it pretty unique from most other designers out there, most other fragrances that I know of. There's even a couple clones I want to mention that are quite a bit different than this one. But this one's definitely got some plum going on, mixing with grapefruit, and then you go into sort of a gourmand ozonic fragrance. So a pretty unique fragrance, I think, especially in the designer realm, just given all that it has going on. This one, again, is 1 Million Lucky. All right, next we're going to go with one of two clones of 1 Million Lucky that I have. This one is Genius Metallic by Emperor. And it smells a lot like 1 Million Lucky, although I'll tell you the plum and the grapefruit, that sweet fruitiness in the opening, is actually more prominent in this one than it is in the original. The ozonic quality, that violet leaf sort of airy freshness, is actually rolled back in this one. And so if you really like the plum of 1 Million, you'd be better off getting something like this Again, Genius Metallic. Pretty good stuff and very inexpensive. Another dupe of 1 Million Lucky, which I should mention, Genius Metallic, great performance on that one. It's strong, it's loud. This one is even more so. This is Soprano Soul. It's a sub-house of Dumont. And this one is, I would say, beast mode. It is legitimately probably a 10-hour fragrance. It is syrupy, heavy, sweet. The plum, grapefruit are powerful. The nuttiness is also very powerful, even more so than Genius Metallic on the nuttiness. And this one, again, the ozonic quality, it's still there in this one and in the one from Emperor, but it's definitely rolled back as compared to the Paco Rabanne. So again, if you're going for the fruitiness and if you want that nuttiness on overload, pick up this one instead of the original, again, Soprano Soul. Moving right along, this one here is pretty unique. I guess you could say it's unique. It's a clone, but there's something about this one that stands apart from other similar fragrances that I have. This is Maison Alhambra Smokey. This one was known as Tabac, but I think they got in some trouble because it's a Tobacolor dupe, Dior Tobacolor. And this one has peach and plum, this sort of very sweet, syrupy, jammy kind of sweetness. I would say the peach is maybe even a touch more prominent than the plum. And then you've got powerful smoky tobacco. This is a smoky tobacco fragrance. They named it well with the rename, but it does have that jammy plum and peach and other fruits in here. So sweet, spicy, smoky, fruity tobacco. Really good stuff from Maison Alhambra Smokey. This one right here, there's really, instead of 12, there's 13 because I'm throwing in a little sample of a niche fragrance that I got. So this is just kind of a bonus. This stuff is fabulous. I mean, this is super impressive. This is Panadora Moonlight. I just got this little 5 ml spray. And it is, as soon as I sprayed it on, I knew nothing about it. I got it as a freebie with an order. I sprayed it on and I thought, oh wow, this has got Tobacolor vibes. It doesn't have that powerful smokiness, but it's got the rest of it. It's got that tobacco, and specifically it's got that peach, plum, fruitiness. There's a certain texture to the other one and this one, this sort of jammy kind of a texture. It's a sweet fragrance, just like Smokey is. But this one, I would say, I believe it still has tobacco. I think that's still a pretty prominent note. I didn't look at the notes right before shooting, but it does still have that dark vibe, but that fruitiness and the texture is super impressive stuff. It's just like $300 a bottle. I'm not gonna buy it, but I'm enjoying the little decant here. Really good stuff. All right, next up, this one it's connected to a line of fragrances that have really intrigued me, that I really like. I'm talking about Penhaligon's Halfeti. There's Halfeti, there's a number of flankers. There's also the Blazing Mr. Sam, which kind of, takes that DNA, adds tobacco. This is Georgians, which is a branch of Armaf. This is their dupe of Penhaligon's Leather. This is Haute Leather. And it is a leather oud fragrance with fruit. And the fruit note that is definitely one of the standouts is plum. And this one, even though it's definitely got a very appealing leather note, a realistic, appealing, soft, not overly animalic or rough leather note, but it's got a decent amount of oud as well, and something about that fruitiness mixing with those. Surprisingly, this one, as well as Smokey from Maison Alhambra, my wife, my daughters like, and I've even gotten compliments on this fragrance, and it's not the type of fragrance that I would think usually gets compliments. So I think the fruitiness does this one a lot of favors. Again, Haute Leather. And if you want a leather oud fragrance with a good bit of sweetness and fruit, it's even got some spice, this is really good stuff. Check out the note breakdown, and if you can find it, it's a really great pickup. All right, we're moving into even more plum-dominant fragrances. This is just one of those notes that really only in the last couple years I've started to identify as something that I like, and there's not a ton of plum fragrances yet, at least not in the designer realm. But I wouldn't be surprised if this one catches a little more wind and there's more fragrances coming out featuring this note, because it's actually really good. This next one is another new release. It is an original fragrance, although it's inspired by a couple of things, and it's from Lattafa. I'm talking about Lattafa Assad Bourbon. So this one's a new pickup, and people have compared it to JPG Scandal Absolute. People have compared it to Stronger With You. They've compared it to Azzaro, the Most Wanted EDP Intense. But it really doesn't smell like any of those. It's significantly different than each of those. And this one, I'm just telling you, I'm not making any money off of saying this. I don't have any motivation other than I'm just telling you, this is a really good fragrance. A lot of people put out lukewarm reviews, and it's kind of getting a little bit of blah kind of reception. This stuff smells great. I've been wearing it probably every other day since I got it, Assad Bourbon. And here's the thing, it features in the top the note of Mirabelle Plum, which is sort of a more tart take on plum, almost like citrus and plum blended together. And Mirabelle Plum is in Scandal Absolute, and that's where the connection comes in. But once it goes into the dry down, there is this sort of fuzzy, textured, very warm, captivating, sweet spiciness in this fragrance that I am really enjoying. So again, check out the note breakdown. Once this comes down to 30 bucks or so, I think it'll be just an excellent pickup, fantastic choice. Again, Assad Bourbon. The bourbon in this fragrance is almost non-existent. It's just bourbon vanilla. So you get a rich vanilla sweetness, but not really any booziness, unfortunately. All right, well, speaking of JPG Scandal Absolute, this one is a dupe of Scandal Absolute from our moth. This is Checkmate King. And this one is just starting to get a little love, people finding out about it. It's actually really close to Scandal Absolute. I don't own Scandal Absolute. I've smelled it out in the stores, so I'm going by memory, but there's a lot of overlap in the Scandal fragrances. The original Scandal had that powerful aromatic vibe mixing with that kind of warm gourmand base. This one doesn't really have the aromatic vibe, but it does have that fruity tart Mirabelle Plum. So it's got probably 75% of the Scandal DNA that we're used to, but I really like that plum fruitiness. To be honest with you, I absolutely like Assad Bourbon better, but if you want something that is really close to Scandal Absolute and, you know, inexpensive, then check out our Moth's Checkmate King. Pretty good stuff. Now we're going into what I would just say, these are plum bombs. These are like explosive plum, you know, just plum lover fragrances. That's where we're headed next. And I love all three of them. It's hard to put them in order, but they're probably in order. I think they're in order as far as we're heading towards the favorite. This one is a dupe of Initio Paragon, which is a $300 fragrance, but thankfully Lattafa has put out Al Neshama, which is one of two clones they have of Paragon. They also have Vintage Radio, and it is a sweet, jammy plum focused fragrance. There is a little bit of oud in here, so you get a little bit of woodiness, you get a little bit of warm spiciness, but you get powerful, powerful plum. And the fragrance is a little powdery as well. So sort of like powdery, fruity plum with a touch of woody oudiness, not overdone on the oud, and some spice. This stuff smells great. And so Paragon in and of itself smells great. I think you'd be happy with this one or Vintage Radio. This one reminds me a little bit of like a popsicle or like those freezies that we used to eat as a kid, the little plastic pouches that you freeze the juice in the refrigerator. Tons and tons of fruit and sweetness. It's addictive stuff, and it's very strong. This is a 10+ hour fragrance. It projects loudly. 4 sprays is really all you need. Again, Al Neshama by Lattafa. This one I love. I love the line of the original, the Guerlain, L'Homme Ideal fragrances. I have several originals. I've got several dupes. This one is awesome. I'm talking about Fragrance World's Supreme L'Homme Extreme. It's one of my probably top 10 favorite fragrances I own, and it is just gorgeous plum, powerful, powerful plum, jammy fruitiness. with that almond, that sweet powdery almond that we are familiar in the other fragrances. And then it's in the other Ideal fragrances. And then it's got this cedar, a very realistic, very, in my opinion, high quality cedar note. Cedar can come across in a few different ways. There's sort of a harsh, abrasive, textured, synthetic cedar vibe that I really don't like at all. This one is more like a sweet, damp cedar, like you're cutting cedar or like you've got a cedar log you're about to put on the fireplace. It smells awesome with some spice, some sweet powdery almond, and just gorgeous, mouth-watering plum. This is an absolutely phenomenal fragrance. Last of all, this one I think is a dupe that, in my opinion, improved upon the original. The original is a great fragrance. I heard the other day it was discontinued. I don't know if that's true, but this one is a dupe of Tom Ford Plum Japonais, and I love this fragrance. This is Zoha Aroma's Wild Plum. I actually wore it last night. So some of the notes in this one are Japanese plum, cinnamon, saffron, liquor, plum blossom, and oud. And so what you have in this one is a syrupy, jammy plum with a discernible liquor note. There is a boozy quality about this fragrance. You've got saffron and cinnamon, which actually work very well together. It's sort of like a, I use the word textured a lot because, how do you describe an intangible like a scent? But sort of a textured spiciness that work with that liqueur and that plum so very well. And then again, a discernible oud, but it's just the perfect kind of woody foundation for the rest of this fragrance. This stuff is awesome. I do not have any affiliate links with Zoha. I do have a discount code for you, but I don't make any money off of it is what I'm saying. But I am recommending this fragrance to you because it is incredible. If you like plum, wild plum, it's unisex as most of these fragrances are. To me, I wouldn't even say leaning feminine. I would just say right down the middle. If you like plum and you want something a little boozy and spicy and a touch of oud, then this is your go-to right here. It's my top recommendation from the video, although this one, the Supreme L'Homme Extreme, and one of the Paragon dupes, and Assad Bourbon, all of those I think are killer. And I think you'd probably be happy with any of them. Although Assad Bourbon, plum is not the main thing going on, but it is a significant part of the fragrance. Here's what I would love to hear from you in the comments. What other plum fragrances are there? I was looking today, like, what other things do I have that feature plum that I've forgotten about? And there's not a ton of like plum videos or plum lists. There needs to be. This is one of those notes like, like iris or like oud or like these gourmand caramel vanilla, the real sweet gourmand notes that are really having kind of their day in the sun. I think plum needs more shine. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What am I missing in my collection? Thank you so much for watching. Remember to give a plum-fantastic click to the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm Justin. This is Sillage Scents.